Well, joining me now is Amey, Executive Vice President of UK Fixed Income at Pimco. I got there in the end. Mike, it does seem that actually no one really knows where the world economy is going. The US has better than expected data. Then yesterday we had those disappointing home sale figures. How do you place yourself in the bond market to take advantage of everything that's going on?
Okay, I think the most important thing for us is to recognise the broader picture, which is one of a cyclical bounce in response to the fiscal and monetary stimulus that we saw, 18 months ago. But we do see plenty of spare capacity globally. You can see that very much so in the US CPI numbers. You can see that a lot in the core European CPI numbers. So we think that whilst we are seeing the cyclical bounce, and clearly there are some question marks as to the sustainability of that bounce, we think that global growth will hang in okay. But there aren't really any material inflation pressures we can see. So as a bond investor, that leads you to conclude that interest rates will probably stay low for a protracted period of time.
At least until the end of the year?
Sure. And then we will see how things pan out from there.
Now, what did you make of the talk about China actually becoming more flexible? The problem is that by becoming more flexible, you don't really know whether the renminbi appreciates or potentially could depreciate.
So there's a short-term aspect to the Chinese move, which is good, which is to recognise that they need to shoulder a greater burden of growth, and particularly their domestic consumption. So ahead of the G20 meeting, obviously the moves are positive from that perspective. But as you rightly say, there is a lot of uncertainty over the fixing already the first few days. It's a little bit unclear how that's going to pan out. So at the moment, I think we're in a watch and wait and see how the fixings develop.
How close do you actually look at these austerity measures, certainly here in Europe, but there's also, Mr. Rubini saying that actually the bond vigilantes, once they get bored with Europe, will move to the US because the debt levels are pretty much the same over there as they are here. Are you looking at what governments are doing much more closely?
Sure, we look at what governments are doing globally, and the challenge is for each government is to balance out growth with recovering the fiscal situation, which is a problem in most developed economies. So from where we sit, we look at Europe and we see some reasonably aggressive measures there. The UK, obviously, we had some news there yesterday as well. But the fact that the US is allowing growth to go forward at the moment is probably, from a global growth perspective, is okay. Their recovery is a little bit stronger than ours. And obviously, if everybody tightens at the same time, then you have a big problem.
Mike, I want to get onto the UK because Britain's budget bounce after the tax and axe wielded by the UK Chancellor to slash the country's record deficit. Britain's gilts have risen. Well, the yield on the 10-year gilt fell to its lowest level in 8 months as the government's pledge to stem the supply of debt lessened the likelihood of Britain losing its coveted AAA credit rating. So, Mike, what does it actually mean for investors on the gilt? That's the curve for the 10-year UK gilt yield.
Okay, so the key thing for a gilt investor at the moment is on the one hand you have very low interest rates, which to some degree is recognition of what we saw yesterday. So the markets have anticipated that budget. We have a step in the right direction, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we have a 10% government deficit. So we shouldn't all declare victory on the back of some intentions. We need to see those intentions come through. But
there's nothing that surprised you yesterday in what the Chancellor unveiled?
No, I think most of what we saw yesterday we'd got in the press already. So I think that the fact that the market rallied into the budget and then has been relatively stable thereafter is probably a reasonable indication as to where markets are positioned.